Are you an artist looking for a way to share your work through the world of self-publishing? Then you'll want to check out today's interview with artist and self-published author Naomi VanDoren. Stick around. Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale, and if you want tips and strategies for self-publishing your own books, then subscribe and hit your notifications on so you get all my latest videos. Today, I have somebody that I just met recently at Vid Summit, and I'm super excited to actually have her here on the show. Her name is Naomi VanDoren. Artist, illustrator, and storyteller are just a few words describing today's self-publishing interview guest. Naomi VanDoren describes herself as a fantasy artist and nomad. She's created whimsical fantasy paintings in watercolor and pen that reflect her love for adventure. This prolific artist is passionate about the creative process, travel, nature exploration, and living a whole, full, and fulfilling life. Naomi spent much of her life abroad and even grew up in the Spice Islands of Indonesia. Most of her inspirations come from her childhood of travel and immersion into a variety of cultures at a young age. She currently resides in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, Anson, and Siamese cat, Zara. Welcoming to the show, Naomi. I'm glad to have you here. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me. This was fun and spontaneous. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. They're very good. It was great. You and I actually ended up running to each other. And of course, you know, I'm a crass individual. I'm not any kind of class whatsoever. And I think we just wrapped up doing a live stream on a couch.
Yes.
And you were meeting up with some other people, and I just kind of intercepted you. And you know how you make eye contact with somebody and you don't want to make it too awkward. It's like we made eye contact. I'm just kind of like, what?
Well, it was your shirt too. It said something about like self-publishing. I can't remember exactly. And I was just like, well, that's interesting. Being at a video event and not really looking for other people that are in the publishing, print, all these things. I was like, well, that's interesting. I bet he's got something to say about it. So yeah, I asked you about that, and that was, yeah.
Yeah, and actually some of the viewers will probably see this, and I haven't actually, the whole desk setup has been rather new for me because I've been dealing with a green screen as of late. So you actually, this made my day. Actually, when you give me one of your prints, and this is awesome, I've already showed this to you, but this actually hangs up over here on my desk, and I keep it right here because I don't know if I expressed to you that I'm just a huge fan of art, and more importantly, cartoon-like art. Mm-hmm. I'm just so big into animation and things like that. So for you to give that to me was awesome. So that's going to be forever hanging here on my desk. So, well, rather than us go too far down the rabbit trail, I just want to kind of jump into things and really just get a better sense of who you are, Naomi, and what you're about. So how long have you been an artist?
I've been creating art or creating things for a very long time. I feel like it's probably, I can remember sitting around with my mom sketching stuff in the garden when I was homeschooled in 3rd grade. So like a very long time, but really more seriously, things kind of started to solidify in high school. So I was taking art classes for a while there, and then actually they ended up running out of art classes for me. I think they made art 4 because they'd had no more, as a senior, they didn't have any more art classes. So that was fun. I went to college for graphic design, so I actually didn't go to school for art per se, but my creating, history has been kind of a lot of this, a little bit of that, a combination of things, I guess.
Okay. So the graphic design, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about your graphic design experience and of course going into self-publishing, how that kind of applied there. But you're just self-trained with some of your art essentially because you did it in high school, but you never had any schooling beyond that?
I've had, so it's been of a mix of things. Like I wouldn't say it's all, straight from my head to paper. I mean, that's definitely like the core of like my style kind of comes from the way I used to sketch. But the training and stuff has been through maybe some online courses. Right now I have a mentor. He's helping me fill in some gaps. Just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. YouTube's been great for that. For me, it's a lot of trying new things on my own, seeing how it feels, like getting that experience, and then going through and like figuring out what's the formal way to do this, or how do I, correct a problem, and I'll go research it, how other people have done it, things like that. So kind of a combination of trying a lot of things and then asking a lot of questions.
Very, very cool. Now I know you have a YouTube channel, and hopefully we talk a little bit more about that YouTube channel. Do you find that it connects you, having that presence on YouTube? Are you able to connect with other artists such as yourself, or even better yet, even like bigger names in the art industry?
I don't know about bigger names per se. So I'm involved in a couple of groups on Facebook actually that are just artist only groups, and I would consider myself a fantasy artist. So they're very, niche groups. So through those groups, I kind of created these relationships, which has then I've been able to bring those over to YouTube and kind of continue to foster those there. But really, I am finding a lot of new people on YouTube. It's only been about 6 months that I've been uploading my vlogs regularly. So I had done like a couple time-lapse videos and things like that a while ago, but yeah, those were sporadic and not very intentional.
I gotcha.
So,
That's pretty good. You've only been doing it for 6 months, and I think you already have exceeded 500 subscribers. Where's that at? Last I saw?
Yeah, it's going up. It's pretty steady. So
Well,
it's a
congratulations.
long game, but I really enjoy video and I like making them. So that's kind of all I care about. That and the connection that people find
Yeah.
through video is amazing. So
Yeah, that's really cool. But anyway, let's push forward here. What are your greatest struggles? I know that you're an entrepreneur. This is your work. What are your greatest struggles being a creative talent and an entrepreneur?
I don't know about greatest. For me, a lot of it is being seen because it's really crowded. It's very noisy in the like social world.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
You got my text message.
I think so. I didn't even know it was making noise. So it's very crowded. It's very noisy in the social world. And just as an artist that wants to do business online, it can be very hard to get recognized and to kind of, have people find you. And that has been a struggle. I would say probably about 6 months ago, my largest struggle was actually, well, not even 6 months ago, maybe more like a year ago, was really figuring out who my audience was, because I struggled for a really long time having no clue who I was reaching. And yeah, I feel like I've got a better handle on that, but that for a long time was probably number one.
How did you end up defining who your audience was? What was that aha moment for you?
Oh, it was an interesting thing. I went to 2 large conventions. So I sell my work through online and in person at conventions and shows, and also through galleries. So a little bit of everything. Yeah. So I went to these 2 large conventions that I was juried into, and these are big ones. They're Gen Con and Dragon Con. And, they have multiple thousands and thousands of people attending. And because I had so many people experiencing my work, buying my work, that whole thing kind of solidified. You see I had more people to pull from to be able to figure out who was buying my work. And I'm observing everyone as they're buying my work, interacting with it, and kind of narrowing down the field of like, everybody likes my work to, oh, okay, it's this age group, it's this interest group. And that helped a ton. So.
Yeah. So I imagine you probably went into it the same way I did when I was starting my fitness brand. I said, well, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
But then I discovered, and then I discovered no one was buying my books outside of my mother. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, a sale's a sale, right?
I know. And then I do get comments from peers that are like, your work is so appealing to such a broad audience. I'm like, it kind of is, but there's still that core group of people that I need to be targeting. So it isn't for everybody. I just was at a Christmas show, and there's, grandmas walking by like, oh, that's nice. Okay, we'll keep walking. So yeah, and like, that's fine.
You're not my audience.
pretty much. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a part of the business aspect that I think a lot of artists don't think about. Yeah. They'll just make art for themselves. And that's good too. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're trying to sell your work, knowing who your audience is huge.
That's awesome that you were able to kind of finally define that. Have you ever I know this is probably going off a little bit on the beaten path. Obviously, as you're going out and exploring options, have you ever done any kind of ads or any kind of promotion?
I'm looking into that more actually. After being at Vid Summit, I'm really wanting to pursue that because my focus has really shifted from doing a lot of these in-person shows to wanting to sell more work online. I have sold work online semi-regularly, but it's been very low-key, not very focused. So I am looking into that. I'll probably be doing that in the next couple of months just because I want to keep trying it, because I'll be pushing towards doing some Kickstarters. I want to be very familiar with how to do that before I go there.
That's really cool. And hopefully we can break ground on that in just a
Yeah.
moment. But before we put the cart in front of the horse, I definitely need to ask you, what led you to publishing your own books? And I noticed something, and maybe I'm incorrect. You can correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
go ahead.
But you fulfill all the orders. So you're not going to an Amazon or a Barnes and Noble or an iBooks to distribute your goods.
Yes. So the reason, well, let's first start off with why. For me as an artist, I think you mentioned it in the intro, I'm quite prolific. I've been doing what I'm doing now for about 2.5 years, the watercolor work. So at the very beginning, I already saw that I wanted to start collecting all of my work into book form, because a lot of my art collectors are buying my work in prints or they're buying the originals. But once they have one, there's not really, 1, 2, 3, there's not really a reason to buy more. And I personally love collecting art books. So I wanted to create one of my own, but I didn't want it to be this like high, lofty, fancy art book yet. I wanted to create something that was a little more in line with like my personality and like what I do as an artist, which is a lot of outdoor travel kind of exploration type things. So I decided to create my own like field journal, which includes sketches, all of my finished artwork from each year. And I went the self-publishing route because that doesn't fit in like a traditional publishing category. It doesn't make any sense. And then I'm also fulfilling it myself because I am doing these in-person shows. I have a store for my work. These areas were places that I could go ahead and sell directly to my customers. I don't think it's bad necessarily to sell it through someplace like Amazon. I am considering that in person, like for future books, because those are actually two separate audiences. Like the people that buy from me directly are not going to go to Amazon to buy that same book because they want to have that connection with me and I could sign it for them, versus someone just stumbled across it on Amazon. If it's like a children's story that I've written, that's a whole different other animal.
Right. That makes sense. Do you mind if I ask, who did you end up getting fulfilling the print run?
Oh, sure. So I decided, I had a couple, I was contemplating CreateSpace, Ingrid Spark, and one or two others that are like Print Ninja is another one. That one you have to get a lot larger run. I settled on Blurb because actually the printed quality was better, in my opinion. And then at the time, I was only looking for a very, very, very small run because I wanted to test it out. I wanted to see how people were going to receive it. So in future, I'll probably be printing through a traditional printer because I want to get a lot larger run. I'll probably be doing maybe 1,000 books. So
tremendous. So there's definitely proof of concept. You're not going to go that deep without knowing that you're going to probably end up selling those 1,000 at some point. Yeah. That's awesome.
And you have to store it all.
Yeah. And you don't want to end up with a huge garage full and not have a way to kind of part ways with it. That's just tremendous. And I know I saw some of these on your site. It was really cool. The covers. The covers are beautiful.
Thank you.
Is that because of your art background, or is this because of your graphic design background, or a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both. So designing these, I wanted them to be my own designs. I didn't bring anybody else in to help with that. And I wanted to just kind of show off my art. So I've used my artwork on the covers, and then I've done, my graphic design work within laying out each of these. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's an art form in itself. It's kind of marrying the two wonderfully. So
a question here. This is going to go a little off the beaten path, and it comes to graphic design in regards to cover design. And I see a lot of people that want to do covers themselves. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a good idea for somebody to design their own covers despite not having that expertise?
I think that can be kind of difficult. So is your goal to have a book printed and you just want to have it out there because it's for yourself, or do you want to have it out there because you want other people to find it and want to read it? Because I think if you want people to find your book and find it attractive and find it something that they want to pick up, I would definitely recommend at the very least, getting someone to come in after the fact and like kind of running through your cover design and maybe making some edits to it. I know not everybody can afford like a full-time graphic designer to come in and design the whole thing, though maybe it's not that expensive nowadays too, even to pick up like a custom one. But somebody that knows what they're doing is going to do a much better job than someone that, I think it's great, but at the same time, I'm definitely a proponent that for me and other people to hire experts in their field. I cannot do everything myself. I'm not an animator. I'm not going to animate any of my work. I could learn how to animate, but this could take a long time. I'd rather just hire someone to do it. Same with a graphic designer. For the books I'm planning in future, even though I do know how to design my stuff myself, I'm actually planning on hiring someone to kind of go over things with me and give me feedback professionally from that side of things. Because even as someone that knows graphic design, I'm not in the industry as far as publishing. Mm-hmm. So the best practices there are not something that I'm going to be as up on or as familiar with. And, I can design a great cover, but sometimes if I want to go that step further, I'm definitely going to bring somebody else on. So
great words of wisdom. So can somebody get a hold of you to do the cover, their cover from, can they hire you in other words?
I'm not actually taking client work right now. So I am actually too busy on my own projects, but I do know a lot of people that do covers. So there are a lot of people out there that can help you or that are able to do that too.
All the viewers are going, oh, come on.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, totally just giving you a hard time here. I happened actually, as I was doing research, I try to do this now with a lot of the guests. And of course, I wanted to dig a little deeper. And what's the very first thing I do? I go to Amazon and I want to see if I can find your name there. And sure enough, something came up called A Window in the Ark. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and how you were involved in that project?
Yeah. So I've worked as an illustrator for a couple of years now, and I've worked on a lot of different projects. Often it's just a cover project or it's, an odd whatever. But this project was actually with my aunt, and she came in realizing that I know how to do all these things and really wanted to work with me on a project that was, for me at the time, very new. And it was a children's book. It was a book that she had written herself and kind of gone through several different courses on how to refine it, et cetera, and she was to the point where she needed an illustrator. So she hired me, and we worked together on several different versions of it and ended up publishing it through CreateSpace and putting it on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was definitely a labor of love. It was a fun project, but I think it was definitely a launch into a lot of my own things. It kind of made me realize that this is something I want to be doing myself in the future. So
that's tremendous. And obviously it led you to your two self-published publications that we were referring to before then. So you learned a little bit in the process that you were able to apply on your own then, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this came out in 2015. I can't remember what month. And then I wrapped that year up and came out with my first self-published field journal art book. So yeah, that was a great way to kind of peel back the behind the scenes and look into what does it take, what kind of paper do I want. I laid out the book for her, so we were both very involved on the processing part of things. It was really good. Definitely recommend it if you have those kind of skills.
In all of your books that you've put out so far, what I noticed, and I was able to look at some of the interior and of course the exterior, these are obviously all hand-drawn things. These aren't digital works. So how were you able to honor the integrity of the original images in your books?
That's very important to me too, which I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah.
As an artist, and for any other artist, I'm sure especially when you have a scanned in image where you can hold the watercolor painting right next to the print. It can be very different sometimes. I scan in all my artwork. So I have a calibrated monitor, and I'm very meticulous and very careful about what, making sure that's correct. And, white balance and everything is just spot on. But I think that helps that I have a graphic design background, because for a while I was doing a lot of photo editing as a graphic designer, product editing and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just printing samples, I think, is really important. I've got 2 samples that I got in of the book that I was able to kind of review and then go through and see if the images were too light or too dark. Sent another copy to myself. It wasn't too difficult, really, because I had printed a couple of prints. I've been doing prints in my work for a while now, so the differences isn't a whole lot off. It's going to depend on the printer, of course, but it's not going to be too drastic. So
interesting. As you were doing your 2 books on Blurb, how many times did you have to order a proof before you felt like you got it just right?
The first one, I think I ordered 2 prints of just a single book, and then the second one, because I'd already done one with them, was just 1.
Oh, so, wonderful. So you got all the testing out of the way, and then each one thereafter got easier and easier.
Yeah. So
tremendous. That is awesome. So you started to say that you're going to be planning on releasing and publishing more books in the near future, and you brought up Kickstarter. What an interesting concept. So do you care to expand on that at all?
Oh, definitely. So the field of work that I'm in, there's a lot of friends of mine that are publishing books through Kickstarter, and it's often an art book or some kind of maybe a children's book and things like that. So I've for a while now had a couple of ideas in my head of projects that I wanted to pursue through Kickstarter. And it's a really cool platform. I don't know if you've ever backed any books through Kickstarter, but there's some amazing stuff on there.
Oh, cool.
And as an artist, it allows me to get a printer that I can push into those really professional papers. I could do spot gloss, all of these things that you dream of that you maybe couldn't necessarily do on your own budget, or you're not even sure if there's an audience that is willing to put down money for that book. Kickstarter is a great way of advertising your project, of getting the word out there in a group of people that maybe don't know about your work. But I haven't done it yet, because you do still need that core following of people that love your work and that would be willing to pitch in when it gets started. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm actually kickstarting my first book, which will be probably in January or February. And that's going to be my next field journal art book. Rather than doing a small run, I'm going to be doing a larger run. And this is sort of my entry into the Kickstarter world as a self-publisher, but doing a small project at the same time. So, and then I actually have more projects planned after that.
That's tremendous. So for those of the viewers that probably aren't familiar with what Kickstarter is and how it works, can you be able to kind of explain it for me?
Oh, yeah. So Kickstarter is a platform that allows you to bring your project to a group of people, but it's set within a certain time frame, and you set a budget. And often Kickstarters can go wildly popular, and you usually do go over the budget that you set, which should be set to whatever minimum needs there are. Kickstarter does take a small portion of the the profits. And yeah, your project, once it's funded, you receive all of that money, and then you can go create your project. For me personally, I like having everything finished beforehand. I know some people have gotten mired in the, yay, I had a Kickstarter get funded, and we're going to release it in a year, which is not good.
That's a nightmare then, especially for the people that are backing you then.
Yeah, no, it's not funny. Not a nice thing to do to people that are supporting your work, for sure. But yeah, so Kickstarter is a platform that a lot of artists, friends of mine use, people that want to create maybe a physical product that doesn't exist in the world. I have heard that books are really easy to publish through Kickstarter, as in they get funded very quickly, versus other items, which I think it kind of makes sense, because books are something you and I all understand. It's not like, oh, I made this random invention, go support it. And you're like, well, I don't really know what that is, if it's going to work, etc. Versus a book is like, okay, it's got, a spine, it's got cover, and it's got pages. I understand this, and it's just whatever's inside that. And I'm speaking from an artist's perspective too. So art books, usually. I don't know about novels and things like that, but yeah.
Yeah. So what's going to entice or motivate somebody to fund or back a project such as this?
Often there's a little bit of that scarcity involved. So a lot of artists will use different tiers um, of backing your project as a way to kind of limit things. So let's say
Yeah.
an artist creates a book and they'll have just a regular paperback version and a hardcover version. Well, maybe they want to make, amp it up a little bit more and let's do a clamshell. Well, that's going to be limited to, 100 people that back this book. Once it's gone and nobody else can get it. And if you've been following this artist for forever, that's something that a lot of people desire. So it definitely has its benefits in that realm as well.
So it just goes to show that you don't necessarily need to come to this game of publishing books, be it art books or even novels per se.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to come being independently wealthy, that you can actually come to the
know.
game and actually use something like Kickstarter as leverage to get the funds then.
Definitely. It takes a lot of hard work to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you don't need, you can have very well done books publish and, you have $50,000 to then go take it to a printer and get all your things printed. And it can be amazing. It allows us to use to access things that maybe we normally wouldn't be able to because I don't have $20,000 laying around to print a fancy book that I'm dreaming about.
You don't have 20 grand. Come on.
And too, like at the same time, like also those people buying it, like I don't know how I would distribute it to them. Through Kickstarter, it allows you to reach all those people because of that scarcity. People are like, oh, I better buy this before the Kickstarter ends. Versus if it's just sitting in my shop for, year after year after year, it's like, oh, maybe I'll get it sometime. That's nice. It changes it up a little bit. So you can go through a lot more sales in a short amount of time through a Kickstarter.
You are really actually exposing me to something that I've heard of Kickstarter before, but I never realized that you can actually really leverage that to actually fund a book. And I am really, really interested and intrigued in doing something like that. And I want to hear what your experience is as it goes along. So if you can do me a favor,
definitely.
When we do disconnect, make sure that you drop me all the 411 and also the link to your Kickstarter so we can actually drop it into this video. So who knows? Somebody could probably be watching this a year from now and you'll probably be running your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'd already be gone. So
we'll see.
You've broken a lot of ground. It seems like you are a Jill of all trades, a Renaissance woman, if you will.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing new in the near future?
Well, I've kind of picked up a little bit, and I would still consider this new, is the YouTube thing. I think for me, having only done this 6 months has been a big, I wouldn't say like steep learning curve, but it kind of is because I'm still trying to figure out the best practices, how to interact with my audience on here, what best ways can I, utilize this to create a deeper relationship. And then also do it for the Kickstarter. It's got to be, January is coming up quick. I've got to wrap that up. But as far as long-term, like big picture for myself as an artist, I've been working on a children's book, series of 3 for the last year or so now. I mean, really, I kind of started it before then, but it wasn't solidified. So the new goal for me is getting that in print. There's a lot there, but that's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it.
Do you anticipate that you'll be fulfilling that like you're doing currently, or do you think that you will end up going through other online distributors?
So the plan for that is it's going to be a series of 3, and I'll be producing those through a Kickstarter campaign. Once the Kickstarter, which is usually a 30-day campaign, once that ends, I'll be purchasing extra books from that run to sell on my website and in person. And then I'll probably be doing an additional book that's like just a trade, like nice trade paperback through another print on demand service, like somebody that fulfills through Amazon, just to get that extra thing out there. Cause it would be a children's, it's a story book. So it's not going to be just like a random art book. So
very interesting. I definitely want you to keep me abreast of that situation. That's exciting for you. You've got quite a future ahead of you. I'm so glad that you actually took a little bit of time out of your day. How can the viewers get a hold of you? And of course, where can they find you on YouTube?
You can find me pretty much everywhere. Naomi VanDoren. There's not too many of us, I don't think. My website's naomivandoren.com. My YouTube channel is Naomi VanDoren. Yeah.
And that's
I'm on all the socials. So hit me up. If you have questions, let me know.
It was super easy to find you. I'll tell you. You have a very unique name. So I don't think anybody's going to take over that space anytime soon. I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your day. And of course, I want to tell, viewers, please make sure that you go visit Naomi's links. I'm going to have that inside the description down below. And let's see if we can kind of help support her as the Kickstarter campaign fires off at the beginning of this next year. And in the meantime, remember, if you enjoyed this video, share it with somebody else who's into publishing too. Until later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.